We'll start with the resolution that I need to read, and we'll need to vote on that resolution. So I'd like us to entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2020-50, a resolution declaring that the Sustainability Commission shall meet on May 1st, 2020, and conduct its essential business by electronic means, rather than being required to gather a quorum of the members physically present in the same location because it's necessary to protect the health, safety, and wellness of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. And Andrew is showing a copy of that resolution on the screen. Do we have a motion to approve this resolution?
Move for approval.
Second.
Perfect. And now I'll go through the roster of commissioners. You can either say aye, nay, or recuse yourself. So we'll go in alphabetical order by last name. We'll start with Patrick.
Aye.
Alderman Berger.
Aye.
Mike Cassidy.
Aye. I was on mute, excuse me.
No problem. I expect that. So Mike Leonard.
Aye.
Brenton Montgomery.
Aye.
Todd Palmer.
Aye.
Nancy Whittemore is absent. So that brings us to Micah Wood.
Aye.
And then myself, Dana Kos, aye. Thank you. The next thing I need to read is an announcement for limited public access. So due to the COVID-19 outbreak, this meeting will be a virtual meeting. The public may call 615-550-8420 to listen to the meeting and make comments during any public comment period. The public may also email comments to planningintake@franklintn.gov to be read aloud during the meeting. Emailed comments were accepted until yesterday at 5 p.m. The meeting video will be available for public viewing following the meeting on the City of Franklin Facebook and YouTube accounts and the City of Franklin website. All right, so I think we're through the resolutions and information related to the circumstances of COVID-19. So welcome everyone to the May Sustainability Commission. Thanks for those of you that were muting yourself. Understand that it'll take everyone a few seconds to get off mute when you want to speak. We will do the same roll call votes for the meeting minutes. So I'll again be calling on you alphabetically. We have two sets of meeting minutes to approve today, the February meeting minutes as well as the March meeting minutes. After we get through that, then we'll have Kevin Ogles from Middle Tennessee Electric. He will present information about LEDs and conversions. If you have any questions that come up during the presentation, please type them in using the chat feature. And then after that, we will give a quick overview of the energy policy guide and have time for a brief discussion and next steps. So let's look at the February meeting minutes. I guess I need a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I didn't catch those. I guess I wasn't looking at my video, my videos of you guys. Who made the motion? Sorry.
I did. Todd Palmer.
Okay, now I see you. Okay. And the second, was that you, Micah?
Mike Cassidy.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. All right. So again, we'll go through our list of commissioners. We'll start with Patrick again. Either aye, no, or recuse yourself.
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
Alderman Berger?
Aye.
Mike Cassidy?
Aye.
Mike Leonard?
Aye.
Brenton?
Aye.
Todd?
Aye.
Micah?
Aye.
And then myself, Dana Kos, aye. All right, March meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the March meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve. This is Micah.
Second, Alderman Berger.
Perfect. Patrick, starting with you again, I know or recuse.
Aye.
Alderman Berger,
Aye.
Mike Cassidy,
Aye.
Mike Leonard,
Aye.
Brenton,
Aye.
Todd,
Aye.
Nancy. Oh, Nancy's absent. Micah,
Aye.
and myself, Dana, aye. All right. Todd, do we have, is Kevin on?
Yes,
Yeah.
Kevin is here.
Yep, there he is.
Yep, he joined.
Perfect, wonderful. Welcome, Kevin. Kevin, this is Dana Coase, Chair of the Commission. You've heard the names of the commissioners on the call and seen the faces. Andrew, do you think we should, I guess, do you want to introduce yourself if you don't know Kevin, and then have others on the call introduce themselves, and then go ahead and get started with Kevin?
Instead of doing that, hey Kevin, I'm Andrew Orr. I'm with the City of Franklin, and we've been communicating. And I'll just give them a quick rundown of who's on the call. We have 9 members on the commission representing the community and different organizations. I did want to point out that we have Mark Hilty on the call, who's our assistant city manager, assistant city administrator over Public Works. And we have our streets department director on the call. We also have some folks from the streets department who have called in. So you'll see Michael and Carl below. So I did want to point that out. And I think to kind of streamline this, I'll share my screen, and then whenever you're ready to go to the next slide, I'll go ahead and advance you over if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that'll be fine.
All right, well, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So I guess you can put the PowerPoint up.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm Kevin Ogles. I'm the support engineer for Williamson County. I've probably met with some of you guys in the past at some point or another over the last 20 years. But I'm here to just let you know how we, mainly the billing and our LED street lighting program. I guess you guys are wanting to change everything out here over the next few years. So you can just go to that first slide if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Or this next slide. Okay, and I'll talk about the costs, the engineering. Yeah, just stay on this slide. This will be good. There's basically 2 ways you can pay for changing these out. You can pay for everything up front, and what that does is you'll pay for your maintenance as it comes up. So you'd only be paying an energy charge. Now, if somebody runs over the light, you'll have a pretty big bill for that light, because we'll have to change the whole thing. Or if the head goes wrong, goes bad, you'd be charged as the lights fail or as the lights are damaged. We also finance them with a 9% annual facilities charge. So you would take the material and the labor to install that light, and you pay 9% a year of that cost. And the good thing with that is you're going to have the same bill every month. So no surprises as far as if something gets damaged or goes bad, your cost per month will stay the same. There's also to change out a light from high pressure sodium to LED. We charge a stranded cost, which is basically just the cost that we have in that light that's still left. It says we're going to take the light down and basically throw it in the trash. So we'll put put a new light up there, but we have to recover the cost that was in that original light. And if you want to go to the next slide, and I think there's a little bit next. Okay, the stranded cost, since we don't really know exactly when every light was put up, we charge 50% of the material and labor on each light. So we're basically taking an average of the life of a light, and we're assuming that 50% of the life of that light has already been used. So that's the reason we use the 50% for the stranded costs. If it's a light we know that's really old, like mercury vapor lights, I don't think you can even buy those anymore. So those we would not charge a stranded cost on. We would just remove those, and would be glad to put up an LED for those without any stranded costs. If a light was put in by a developer and we haven't touched it yet, we've done no maintenance on it, it's basically still your light. So we also won't charge a stranded cost on those. We know which lights, from our GIS system, the lights are believed to have a 0% facility charge, which means you guys actually, no maintenance has been done on the light since the installation, so it's still your light. If it's got a 9%, it's an LED light. If it's 11%, it's a high pressure sodium light. Most of your developers, they're gonna put the lights in a subdivision, so those lights remain at 0% for a pretty long time until the light fails. So a lot of your lights are at 0%. A lot of the post lights you see in your subdivisions. So, but those are the way. That's how you'll pay for the lights if you do decide to change them out. Pay for it all up front, or you can spread it out over the life of that light. And that's up to you. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide there. As far as logistics and lead times, on our, what I usually do with your decorative lights is, say where you've got, say Mallory Lane or East Cool Springs, something like that, where you've got a lot of the same light going up the road. We obviously can't move the lights. So what I'll do is I'll put the existing design in with the high pressure sodium, and then I'll find a LED light as close to that design as possible. And that would be the light we use to do that. That's a pretty simple process, and I can do, I've done a couple of them in the last year or so. And it usually takes me about a day to do that, to get that design. If it's a TDOT, a state road, the designs, it takes a little bit longer to get that design, because I have to go GPS the light locations and get elevations and send a bunch of stuff to TDOT, and then they'll approve the design, and then I have to send it to their permitting office and get a permit to actually work on the state road. I don't know, most of your lights are not going to be on state roads. Probably the main one would be Highway 96 between, say, downtown and going towards Murfreesboro. That would be a pretty big project and take a while to engineer. So that may be something we want, if you don't want to do that one last. A lot of your subdivisions where you've just got post lights, there's not really any design to do. You've got a 100-watt post light. We have a 50-watt LED light that we will replace that light with. So there's not really any design on some of those. Where you'll see East Cool Springs, I think you've got or Cool Springs Boulevard, you've got Cobra heads on decorative poles. That's the one where we can go through and I can pick the best Cobra head to match what you've got there now. So, but all that being said, is the TDOT engineering takes a lot longer and is a lot more involved than the non-state roads. And most of your lots are not going to be on state roads. So I think I've done a design for Mallory Lane at one point that never really got. We just got into design stage. It got designed and never built. I've done one for Cool Springs Boulevard from the roundabout there in McEwen all the way around to, I may have even taken it all the way to Matt Catcher Boulevard, but those kind of designs even that will take me about a day to get the design in, and then it's just a matter of us making the decision and getting the fees paid to order the lights. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide there. Once we know which lights, after I do the engineering, I can give you a estimated cost on what the cost will be there. If you decide to go with the financing, I can give you an exact cost. If you decide to pay for everything up front, what'll normally happen is I'll put the lights out for bid, so then we'll know the material costs, and then we'll bill you the labor to install that after it's done. But we can get all that worked up after the engineering, and you guys decide to move forward with it. Most of the lights, when I do get a bid on them, that cost is good for like 30 days. So we would need to bid the lights out and then order the lights within 30 days. So lead times for lights have been in the past between 6 and 12 weeks. I don't think that's I think that's after we get our fees paid, where that 6 to 12 weeks would start. As far as once the lights go, we can do a lot of stuff while the lights are out on bid, as far as putting our GIS ready to get built. So once that's done, we should be able to get them changed out within a month anyway. But it will depend on our workload, and but no, most of the time we can get it completed within a month after the lights come in. And go ahead and go to that last slide. All of our new installations are LED now, so anything that's getting put up new now is going to be LED. We have a few installations that we put up over the last couple of years. One's at Liberty Pike between Carruthers and Mallory Lane. I think that was the first little pilot project we did. Carruthers Parkway on Carruthers Road, South Dakota. Yeah, okay, so that's up around the Goose Creek area. Those are LED shoebox lights. And then I think we just changed a bunch of lights out on Ash Drive, where I think you were wanting some more light out there. And that was a pretty simple job there. No design really, just go change out a bunch of Cobra heads. With that being said, as far as moving forward, if you guys decide to do this, the best way to do it is going to be to just pick sections of road that have pretty much the same lights. I'll make a design for that, and then we can go over the costs, and you can budget them and decide when you want to do it, if you want to do it this year or however you want to do that. But we need to break it down and do manageable projects, and I think it would be a good idea to do the decorative lights first, and then pick all these other lights that are just randomly out in the city everywhere. You probably do those last, because there'll be no engineering fees or anything on those. It'll just be replacing a Cobra head with a Cobra head. Ash Drive is a lot like that, because there's not really a design for that subdivision. Those lights were put up a long time ago, and they're just Cobra heads on every other light. And I don't think any design was ever done on those. They were just put up mainly for security reasons. So, but if you guys have any questions, I'm the lighting guy for Fort Middle Tennessee Electric, and I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Okay, I think Alderman Berger has some questions. So I'll give you the floor, Alderman.
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I'm trying to wrap my head around some of this information. And you said back here, you got that one slide where you have I think it's the first or second slide, and it was about different scenarios. If we had, I think the 0%, like you gave that one example for the developers, and you gave one, that would be the same for the city, right? If we would take this over and install. So I'm trying to think back to that one slide. I think I got it here somewhere, but I'm not sure how that works with, you said 0%.
Yeah.
Then you said if we took that right over, all the costs would be up front, correct? And then if not, you bill it out. How does
Yeah.
that work? I
The-
mean,
the-
bill it out for how long?
Okay, the 0% is when you install a light or developer installs a light, we don't have any money invested in that light. You've required the developer to put in all the material and labor. So we're just going to charge you an energy charge per month. And once we do maintenance on that light becomes ours. Or what we've been doing in the past is once we do maintenance on that light, we'll start charging 9% if it's an LED or 11% if it's a high pressure sodium. So that's when you swap from the 0% to one of the facilities charges. If you guys would rather keep it at 0%, then what we'll do is just maintenance as it comes. So we would charge you the full cost of changing that light out if it goes bad, material and labor for that, and you would continue with the 0% facilities charge, and all you'd be paying is an energy charge. I'm not sure if I answered.
Okay, and we don't know what that full charge of changing a light out is?
It's going to depend on what light it is, and we have I'm not sure what the labor per light is, because we have a charge for changing out, say, a photo cell on a light, and then cost is going to be different if we just change the light head out, or if somebody runs out over the light and destroys the whole light. Obviously now we've got to change out a light and a pole, so it's really going to be different in every situation as to how much we're going to charge you to fix that light.
Now, what if somebody ran over a pole in an HOA? Would the HOA foot the bill for the pole?
We do have some of the HOAs are paying for the lights, and I think that the city of Franklin may be paying for lights in some subdivisions. I'm not sure about that. So it's just going to depend on who we're sending the bill to right now. We can probably get you a list of which subdivisions you're paying for and which ones are HOA paid for.
Yeah, it might be helpful to look at that. I was just trying to, so we really don't know the difference in cost here, do we? Because we don't have any numbers right now. So I don't know if you come in and change out a light, if that cost us $1,000 or $10,000, or I have no idea.
Yeah, it's gonna be different depending on what light you have. Just to give you an example, like the lights in West Haven, those are King lights, and those lights cost about, that light head itself costs over $900. If it's a Hall of Fame post light, it's probably going to cost about $500. So there's a big difference in the cost of the individual lights. So,
And that's just the light head?
yeah, that's the light head.
That's assuming that the pole is there and nothing else needs to be done, just change out the light.
Yeah. So
Okay.
if we had to change out a light head in West Haven, it would cost at least $900 something dollars.
Look, help me understand here too, that if we change these lights out and paid to have the lights changed out, then you still keep the maintenance. Is that correct? Or does the city take that maintenance over at all?
No, the city, we'll do the maintenance. The question is, how do you want to pay for the maintenance? If you finance it with the facilities charge, let's say it's an LED light, and let's say that light, the cost for a new light installation and material is, let's say it's $1,000. So you would pay 9% of that a year. So it'd be $90 divided by 12. That would be your monthly cost for maintenance on that light. Whether we do anything to the light or not, you just pay that same cost every month.
That's a charge we pay for the rest of the life for the lot of the pole.
But then you have so if somebody runs over the light though, you guys don't pay any more. You still just pay that same cost every month. You also have the option though, if you want to go ahead and pay for everything, you can pay for that light as it gets run over. We'll go ahead and say, here's a bill to change it out. You're going to pay 100% of that on that 1 month. Now you don't pay any maintenance unless somebody runs the light over again. Or
Okay, what's the difference of that? Why would we not pay if someone ran over because we're financing it?
Yeah, you have the option just to finance it over the life of the light, or you have the option to pay for it all at once. That's all.
If we pay for it all at once, then it was ours. If not, we're financing it, somebody runs it over, you all
Yeah.
replace. Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And then I think I had one more question. So the light itself, if we change it out and everything, does that light itself belong to the city? And then we just pay them, say we paid the maintenance on it, or vice versa, we just paid for it all up front. Either way, who has ownership of the light?
We actually own the light, so the light's ours. It's our responsibility, whether you pay for it all up front or. And the reason for that is that it's basically tied directly to our transformer, as opposed to having a transformer and then a meter, a service, and then the light. In that case, you could own the light, but since it's connected directly to our system without a service, without a meter, then we own the light. So we're the only ones who can work on that light.
Okay, and then one more thing. You had mentioned the lights on Liberty between Mallory and Carruthers.
Yeah.
And when you change those out, I noticed those big time, because when you go under the underpass, it goes over 65, the light back there, I mean, if you're walking there at night, you would feel very safe because it's all lit up and you can really see it. So who owns those lights? I mean, you own them, but who paid to have those taken out and replaced? And what kind of lights are there? I take it it's the lead LED light, of course.
Yeah, those are, what was there before was a 250 watt high pressure sodium, what we call shoebox lights. It's been changed out to a light that's about 150 watt LED light. I'm not sure how you guys pay for that. I'm not sure if those are, I'd have to go in our jazz system and look. I'm not sure if you guys pay for all that up front or if those are financed, but that's some information I can get you if you want to.
And you
And
said they were what, sodium lights? What was the wattage?
They were 250 watt high pressure sodium
High pressure.
lights. Yep. And right now, I think they're actually 138 watts or something around there, LED lights.
Okay, all right. Okay, the only thing I'm lacking, of course, and I think that you answered everything else, and just the cost wouldn't be something I'd like to look at. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing, the reason I say it's hard to do all this at once. If you guys would, pick stretches of streets, you want to compare. It's a lot easier to compare the costs if you do it in chunks. So you say, I want to do this section of roads. Let's see what's there now, and we're going to change it to LED. And I can give you a cost of, it's going to cost you this much up front or to do the pay-as-you-go maintenance, or it's going to cost you this much up front and monthly charge to do it as a monthly charge. So I can give you an either or situation for any section you want to do.
Yeah. So Andrew, I was thinking when Kevin just said that we and the rest of the people on this group today, we might want to, in our Sustainability Commission, we might want to identify a section somewhere between one street and another street in a section that we would be interested in, where we would bring better lighting, because I know this gives a lot better lighting, and then get us a scenario of changing that out on those two scenarios. I think that would be helpful. Be helpful to me and probably the rest of the board, but thank you, Kevin.
Yeah. And I can spit those designs out pretty quick if you give me a section of road, so I can get you a few of them and you can look them over.
Good questions, Alderman Berger. And I think as part of that analysis, I don't know if Kevin, would you be able to, do you have any data that would give us the savings of the electricity as we change those out?
Yeah, that's pretty easy to do. From a money standpoint, what happens when you go from LED to high pressure sodium is generally your high pressure sodium is going to cost you a little bit more on maintenance, and but it's going to cost you less as far as the initial cost of the light. High pressure sodium is a little cheaper, and then you'll save a little bit on your energy charge. So when you switch from LED, from high pressure sodium to LED, you're going to save on your energy charge. One thing to understand though is that usually your maintenance and your material and maintenance is usually quite a bit more than the energy as far as dollars. So, you know, you may save $3 on the standard high pressure sodium, maybe a couple dollars less in material and maintenance, but it's going to be a couple dollars more on energy. So it's, as far as money, we think with the 9% and 11% facilities charge, you're going to be pretty close as far as the overall cost of the light, but you will save a little bit on the energy. You'll save $1 maybe on the energy, so per light. But I can give you those numbers. If you give me a section of light, I can tell you what the wattage will be before and after the change out.
Okay. I did see a question come through from Mike Cassidy asking about kind of the lifetime expectancy of LEDs again versus what we have out in the field right now.
You know, we haven't had LEDs up to enough to really confirm it, but you know, there's no bulbs to change out. And when we put an LED in, we put a photo cell or something else that'll fail on the light. We put a higher quality photo cell that'll last longer. So we're hoping to get 12 to 15 years on an LED light. The maintenance on a high pressure sodium light is a little different because you got to change the bulb every 5 to 7 years. And you've also got the photo cell that could go out too. And you've got a ballast that could go out. So, but we hope to get 12 to 15 years. We haven't had them up enough to know that that's going to happen, but we haven't had any issues with them going out. We use, all of our lights are either Cooper, GE, or Hall of Fame, which are 3 big manufacturers, and they have really good support. So we trust that they're at least putting the best lights out there that they can. There's a lot of companies out there making these and using cheap Chinese parts, and we kind of stay away from those companies and try to use quality lights. But we hope 12 to 15 years is what we'll get out of the life of the light.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, one more question. And I think I heard correctly. When developers are building new neighborhoods, so think about neighborhoods that are under construction right now, are they putting in LEDs up front?
Yes, we switched to where we said all new subdivisions would require LED, and we've now since gone to all new lights are LED. So for a while there, we were letting people continue to put in high pressure sodium lights if they had already started the subdivision, just because we didn't want any complaints about the color temperature change. But we've since just said everything's LED. So that's, if you look at our decorative street lighting book now, it's all LED. So.
Okay, but you can still kind of match color temperature.
Yeah, we're
in the residential areas. Is it probably around 3,000 Kelvin?
Yeah, well, all of the lights we 3,000 K. That's all of our lights. I think the high pressure sodium is like 2,700 K.
Okay.
We were doing 4,000 K, and there's a pretty big difference between 4,000 K and 2,700 K. The only reason we did that is because the AMA put something out that it messes with your circadian rhythm, the really blue light. So just so we wouldn't get any complaints, or if we did get, it's hard to argue with somebody when the AMA says something's bad for you. It's also the dark sky people. I'm not sure what that the exact name of their organization is, but they recommend 3,000 K or less too. So.
Any other questions for Kevin?
I think when you give us some of those scenarios and numbers, I'm really interested in finding out the cost savings long-term for changing out lights, and also the difference of us financing that, paying outright for it or paying it over time.
Yeah, and I think it may take somebody, I'm an engineer, so it may take somebody from our accounting department to recommend what you want to do. If you think about it, 9%, you're going to pay 100% of that light in about 11 years, or 99% of it in 11 years. And once you calculate the present cost of money and everything, it would probably stretch it out to 13 or 14 years. So it should come out really to a wash. If the light lasts between 12 and 15 years, you should be paying the same for it. the advantage to the financing is you get levelized billing, and it's really easier on us too, because we don't have to send you somebody runs over a light. We don't have to, do a bunch of accounting and tell you exactly what it costs to change that light out. It's a lot easier on us for the financing, but you guys are welcome to do whatever you want. But I think it will, if you really look at it, I think it should come out about the same cost over time, no matter which way you do it. Or we hope it does anyway.
Andrew, I would think that when we look at this, we need those cost scenarios, but also I think there might be a difference in, like you talk about somebody running over a light. That might happen on Mallory or Carruthers, but doubt very much it will happen in a back street on a rental. So I think those elements come into play when we're looking at how to pay for it as well.
Yeah, I was just having a flashback to when I was teaching my brother how to drive, and we drove through West Haven, and he nearly took out a light post.
In West Haven, that was an expensive light. If you
that would have been an expensive light. After that, we went to the giant parking lot.
I just said residential, and you just blew that out of the water.
He did it though. He didn't hit the light.
I'll give another example next time.
We did, just so you know, we do have them get run over in subdivisions too. So usually people backing out of their driveway run over them.
I'll also share the
Andrew.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, there's a question from Mike Leonard as well. So, but go ahead, and then we can look at his question.
When we did the Ash Drive conversion, we looked at, buying them outright versus the finance package, and it's definitely a lot less upfront. It makes it very affordable to do. So it will probably become kind of a no-brainer in terms of not having to put out a lot of money up front. But I'll share that information as well, and we can run some scenarios. And it looks like we've got a question from Mike Leonard. What kind of costs are involved with sending crew out to replace high pressure sodium bulbs, i.e. use of bucket truck, labor hours, etc.?
It's a lot. I believe it's pretty expensive just to change a light bulb if you're using a line truck and qualified linemen. So we're hoping with LED lights, we don't have to go out there as much. That's one of the main savings for LED is as far as, when you get to the upfront costs are a little bit more, but your maintenance costs are a little bit less. So we're hoping not to have to go to LED lights as much as we would for high pressure sodium, because it definitely does cost a lot just to change a light bulb. Once you've got to set up a bucket truck and have 2 linemen there, all the codes that we have to follow just to change the light bulb, it costs a lot of money. So, but as far as the actual cost, it depends on how far away the light is from our, but it's definitely probably $200 at least to change a light bulb.
I've got a question on that. Is that?
Yep.
Okay? All right. I'm just used to hitting the buzzer here. So I've been in my house 16 years, and I had a high sodium light out here by the alley, and it kept flickering and finally almost totally died out. In fact, I think it did. So they came and replaced it. So you're saying for them to drive a truck here, untwist that bulb, shake that bulb out and change it out is $200?
Yeah, I don't know the exact cost, but once you figure, what we're paying a lineman and, bucket truck, it's a lot more than the $20 light bulb. I don't have the exact cost. I could probably get you that, but it's going to be different also whether we're changing how far we drive to get to.
Okay, let me ask you one other question on the life of the lights. So that light was put in here 16 years ago, and it just went out in 2018 or 2019. I think it was 2019. It was last year. So that lasted a long time. What is the life expectancy difference between the high sodium, the sodium lights versus the lead?
Yeah. But with high pressure sodium lights, you can basically change out parts of the light. So there's basically three things that will fail. You know, the actual housing may last for 30 years, but you've got a ballast in there. So you got a ballast, you have a lamp, and you have a photocell. And those things all fail at different times. So normally what we would do when we change a bulb, we'll change the light out and change the photocell out. I think a bulb should last at least 7 years or so. Ballasts are kind of unpredictable. They're probably going to last longer than the bulb, but they'll probably go out within 10 years too. So there's different parts of the lights that fail for high pressure sodium, where the LED usually it's just once it fails, it's the whole light's gone. So
I've got the bulb and I've got the photocell. What's a ballast?
it's kind of like a transformer. It's just something that's inside the light that allows the gas in the bulb to ignite. It's just an internal component of the light.
All right, thank you.
It looks like we have one more question from Mark Hilty, and then I think we can wrap up this agenda item and go over to the energy policy guide.
Thanks, Dan.
Go ahead, Mike, or Mark. Yeah.
Kevin, when we convert from whatever we have existing to LED, do we know how many different types of lights we have out there? You mentioned a GIS, and I was curious to dig in a little bit.
As far as, you know, if you mean like, you know, most of them are high pressure sodium. Or are you saying types? Or are you saying, because we have a lot of different decorative lights as far as different looks, but are you asking how the light works or what it looks like?
Yeah, what I'm trying to get to is, you know, is there like an average cost to change out light A to an LED? And with your GIS data, is it possible to get I know we're not talking about specific dollars here, but roughly an estimate of what it would cost per light type. And maybe, you know, I don't know what your GIS data looks like, so I'm kind of fumbling around here.
So I would say we've probably got at least, I guess what matters there is which LEDs we're offering going forward, because that's more important than the light. The light that's there is not so much as important as what you're replacing it with, because that's where the cost is. So there's probably, we probably got about 10 different lights or so as far as LED. There'd be different, what would be different as far as changing the light out would be the stranded costs. So there's a lot of different, you've really got to look at each light individually.
Right.
I could probably, you know, get you something as far as a post light as opposed to a decorative pole light and things like something real general. But it's still very specific to the light, depending on whether it's what it's facility charge for charging and the pole cost and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, I think what I'm driving for here is, you know, if we're going to propose a line item in our budget to replace lights, I'd like to at least get a budgetary estimate.
Yeah.
And what does that look like in terms of
I
number of
think
lights?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I tell you what, I think the best way to do this would be, you know, you don't have to limit the, you know, the projects. The estimate's free. So if you give me, you can pick out 10 stretches, you can pick out 1,000 lights, and I can give you a cost to change those lights out. I'd rather do it knowing which lights are paying out, because it'll be a lot more accurate then. So I can tell you have about probably total, you have about 6,000 lights.
About 6,000. Okay.
All over, you know, throughout Franklin. So if you're wanting to change out, you know, I don't know what your schedule is to do this, 5 years, 10 years, but if you just say we want to do 1,000 this year and pick out stretches of road, and we can do it project by project. So, but I can do a lot of those projects pretty quick. So as far as the engineering.
Okay. Thanks, Kim. Thank you, Dana.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone, for the questions. Appreciate the information, Kevin. That was very helpful. I think I see as next steps, Andrew, I don't know if you want to work with staff to find some stretches that need some better quality light as well, since we'll get that benefit out of it, and then have Kevin price them and take it from there.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. We can dig into the price. And I mean, as Mark alluded to, this would be, you know, if we decide that this is a great direction to go in, it would probably be, you know, phasing it in over the course of several years.
So when do y'all do the budget for the city? I mean, that would be, if you let me, we can get the stuff, I can get you a lot of information before, you guys do. I know you have to discuss it a bunch beforehand, but I can, as long as I got enough time, I can get you a lot of good budgetary estimates that you guys can put in your budget and know exactly what you're getting.
We're working through budget right now, so obviously with the current conditions, we're looking very closely at what we're spending our money on, or what we're proposing to spend our money on at this point for the board to consider.
I would just say, as a member of the board, mayor and alderman, you got a lot of time to give us your scenarios, although I'd like them sooner than later, but not spread them out too long. But I think we've pretty well had to go back and look at cutting our budget and streamlining it. So I think for this 2021 budget, I don't think, Andrew, unless I'm in the dark here, I don't think we're going to be adding anything this year. We're actually taking things away. So I think we would shoot for the 21-22 budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you just give me sections of street where you want to do it, and I'll get you all the budgetary numbers you need.
I might also add, sorry, I'm doing a lot of talking here, but I'm very interested in this. And I also bring this to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen when we're talking about this. But Andrew, I think that Dana, when we're looking at this, especially as everybody here on the Sustainability Commission, maybe it would be good to talk to the ward aldermen and the at-large as well. But the ward aldermen know their wards the best, and the at-large are very knowledgeable of the entire city. And we might ask them, do they know of any sections in their wards or in the town per se that are relatively dark, even with the lights, that need improved lighting? Because I can tell you right now, I know of one place in Cool Springs right now I could offer, and it's a smaller section that we could take a look at and do a scenario in. So we might be able to get that from them as well. Andrew and Dana, we might want to talk.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion. Okay, well, this is probably a topic that we'll continue to dive into over the course of the next year. And it is part of the energy policy guide. So that's kind of how the whole discussion originated. We're trying to take a more holistic look at energy usage and energy conservation measures that we can do, and street lighting kind of rose to the top. So we wanted to have a more in-depth discussion on it. So with that, I'll go ahead and screen share real quick and pull up the policy guide. I've received some feedback on that, but I did want to put it out to the group and see if anybody else had any things they wanted to bring up for the better of the group.
Andrew, did you see Patrick's note in the chat that for item number 6, instead of saying require, to say evaluate the impact of requiring?
Okay.
I think that's a good suggestion.
Okay.
One point that I would ask us to consider is to really tighten up our policy statement, because it really drives the action items, and it really makes the action items apparent to what we're trying to accomplish, and you can visualize how metrics might be used to track success on that. I think when I'm reading through the two different paragraphs of statements, the preamble paragraph and then the policy statement, at the end of reading that, I'm still not exactly sure what what our key point is. I think it's cost control, and I think it's getting operations costs in check to be more resilient with all that economic swings and then future cost increases. And that's fine if it's cost. If that's our main driver, which is fine, and that would be a good one, then some of the action items I would probably reword or take off. It would also drive what graphics we show to show the point we're trying to make, or angles to pursue, whether it's, if it's overall cost control, looking at demand reduction, maybe on the larger wastewater. If it's operations cost, maybe it's dollars per capita, trying to keep it to a certain number. But I think it's helpful to really polish up that policy statement. From looking at the example that I've based this on for energy, it's just one sentence, and at the end of it, it's greenhouse gas emissions. So I would encourage us to summarize and get it down to one or two sentences.
Thanks, Mike. Does anybody else
Okay.
have any thoughts, suggestions?
Yeah, Andrew, this is Brenton. So for action item 1, just based on what we heard today, so it says converting all street lights to LEDs by 2025, which I think is a great goal, but based on what Alderman Berger said, if we're not able to get this into the budget until 2022, I don't know if we want to change that all maybe to a certain percentage, because and maybe we don't do anything with it right now, but I guess my point is maybe after we identify which streets we want to do with LEDs, maybe adjust it from there, would be my only input. That way, when we get to 2025, if we haven't completed them all, it's not like mission failure, so to speak. It's just like, oh, we got the percentage done we wanted to. So, but yeah, I think it reads great. Thanks for putting.
Yeah, and that was part of the discussion I wanted to have today. Is how realistic is that? That was sort of a pre-pandemic number that we came up with. I think you make a valid point about pushing that back or doing a percentage. It's a great idea.
I think if our policy statement is cost, I don't think you need a deadline. But if it's greenhouse gas emissions, X% reduction by 2025, then yeah, you do need some metrics on that. But if our policy is just ideas to hedge against future cost increases, the action item is simply replace other light fixtures with LEDs, period. And then you do it as you can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds good. And just maybe a follow-up question from our last meeting. And Todd, sorry to maybe put you on the spot here, but I know we talked about the as it relates to action item number 2 and maybe the potential of some of those TVA CSP audits. I don't know if that might tie in with number 2, obviously pending all this COVID stuff to pass, when something like that could even be done. We'd have to figure out, but I think our number 1 and 2s are good. So I don't know, Todd, if you could add anything to that on number 2 about how we might want to play something like that for energy savings.
Yeah. So right now, as you mentioned, TVA is not currently per policy going into any facilities and do any of these types of things. However, the businesses and commercial entities that have approached me about wanting to get in on the list, I mean, we can go on and start to submit jobs and things like that and get them. So hopefully here over the next few months, as things open back up, hopefully I'm sure the policies will change. We'll be able to go back in. And yeah, as far as energy saving measures, when they do their work, they will run reports and show, the report and then for to go in the building is free, right? So it's not going to cost us anything to send TVA in with their energy power utilization engineers and then provide us some sort of cost changing methods and having the report there to base that on what it costs versus what it won't cost. So I would recommend we look into doing some of that type of stuff. I think it's it's free and it's an easy way to get some really good feedback. And then, we have to figure the cost of, they don't do the work, but it certainly gives you a baseline to measure what you're doing now versus what you will be saving once they're finished with their audits. Did that answer what you were on?
Yeah, it did. Thank you, Todd. I think that was perfect. And I'm glad you said, facilities, right? So Andrew, I know on item 2, we put City Hall. But I don't know if as a group we want to decide just to put city buildings, or whether we just want to leave it at City Hall, because it looks like as far as usage goes, we're pretty up there at City Hall, the police headquarters, and then obviously the water treatment plant. So I don't know if those might be 3 of our priorities for these audits whenever they can eventually be scheduled. But as far as energy savings, yeah, I think starting with the street lights is perfect, and then having the number 2 for our facilities, I think as a city we could look at saving some energy and some dollars.
Yeah, I think Brenton number 3 covers all of the other facilities in terms of audits. Number 2 is more for the new City Hall and engaging
there you go.
somebody to be involved with that team as they plan and design the new City Hall. And then number 3 is I think what you're talking about. Yeah.
It is. I'm sorry, Dana. I
Okay.
should have
Great.
read more closely. But yep.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, and I agree, getting those audits as soon as buildings open up, getting those implemented so we know where the savings opportunities are. And then in terms of the cost to actually carry out those savings, that's going to be, we're going to be constrained by budget there, but at least we know what they are, then we can plan for it in the future. So we're about 4 minutes over here. I guess I'd say, Andrew, do you want to talk about next steps with the policy guide and
Yeah.
close?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
based upon the feedback we received, I'll work with Dana and we can make some minor edits to it, and I'll send it back out. I'd also like to circulate it internally and, get input from other city staff, and then revisit it at an upcoming meeting, either the June or July meeting.
And if there's anyone who didn't get a chance to comment that wanted to jump in here, just send us your feedback, or you can call Andrew or I and let us know your feedback, preferably by maybe end of day Tuesday. Andrew and I will probably touch base middle of next week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Great.
Okay. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda, the end of our call. Feels odd not to have any sort of time for any closing comments, but given the circumstances, it'd be difficult to open up the floor to everyone. So appreciate everyone joining this morning. It's great to see your faces, and we'll be in touch for the June meeting and how we'll plan to handle that.
I
Hope
do.
you have a wonderful weekend.
I do want to say I'm going to steal Dana McClellan's line. At the end of BOMA the other night, he says, "You're not getting me back in City Hall." So, I tell you what, guys, we all could be sitting here in our PJ pants at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
I don't think that's such a bad idea. Thanks, Dana. You did a good job.
Thanks, Dana. Great job.
Thank you
This
all.
was great.
Thanks, everybody.
Enjoy the beautiful weather. Have a nice weekend. Thanks,
Bye,
Andrew.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.